What is up? We upgraded to a Mac. So, unfortunately, we no longer have Microsoft Paint. So now we're using bit paper. And also I have a stylus now, so my handwriting is actually going to be legible this time. So we have, this is our first Olympiad problem on this channel. We have two players, and they're playing a game on an infinite grid. So we can think of B as the protagonist. We're like cheering for B, and then R is the antagonist. So as the protagonist, we're blue, and we're going to be coloring one square blue on each of our turns. And then on red's turn, red colors two squares red. And we have to be coloring uncolored squares. We can't like overcolor a blue square with a red square or something like that. We have to be coloring only white squares. That's for both the protagonist and the antagonist. And so what our goal is to get the maximum streak of blue squares, which is what this, another way of putting it is the way the problem puts it, which is like simple polygon stuff. So for example, this would be a streak of 2 blue squares. This would be a streak of 3 blue squares now. And this blue square here is not part of that streak because they have to share an edge. So this is one streak, and then this would be like a streak of 1 square. So because red is coloring in cells to like obstruct the places where we can color in our blue cells, that means that, yeah, red might actually be able to limit us to a finite streak. And of course, that's the case because the problem asks us, what's the maximum streak we can have? So let's do a bit of experimentation first. Let's understand the rules a bit better. So let's say we go first. We're the protagonist, blue. We color in a square. It doesn't actually matter which one because it's an infinite grid. So all the squares at the start are the same. And maybe red will play these 2 squares. I don't know. Okay, so let's say that's our first move. And now on our second move, maybe we place another blue square here. So now red maybe does this because the colors in 2 more squares. And we're trying to maximize our streak, so we can keep going. What if we add another one here? We're going to complete the 2 by 2 maybe. Red is like, not today. But it's okay for us because then we can color in this square. And at last, we can't keep expanding the streak because every square surrounding our blue streak is surrounded by red cells. So that's kind of what's going on in this game. And so here we actually got a streak of 4 cells. And it turns out this is the answer. We can never get a streak of more than 4 cells if our antagonist red is playing properly. So it's a pretty small number. And so as with any question, what's the largest score, any optimization problem here, we have 2 parts to the question. One is to prove that we can always get 4, that blue can always get a streak of 4, regardless of how well red plays. And then also prove that if red plays well, we will never be able to get a streak of 5 blue squares. So, so first we got to prove the answer is going to be at least 4. Prove answer is at least 4, and then we also have to prove that the answer is at most 4. And this is easy, proving the answer is at least 4, that we can always attain a score of 4, that's easy. And proving that we can never attain a score of greater than 4, that's hard. And I'm going to write hard in red because that is the color of blood, which is what will happen to our brain cells after we try solving this question. Okay, so let's, like I said, the proof for that we can always get 4 cells is pretty easy in comparison to the rest of the question. So it turns out we just do it. I mean, there's nothing really clever about this. So we color in 1 square first. And then if we think about it, we have, I think the name for this in Go would be like liberties. We have these 4 squares that red can place it in to like block off our continuation of the blue streak. And so red can cover at most 2 of these. So we are guaranteed to have at least 2 liberties on our second turn. And now if we color in our second square, it's always going to be in this like 1 by 2 formation because any streak of 2 blue squares looks like that. And so now we have 4 liberties, at least 4 liberties. And so now it's red's turn, so red can cover up 2 more of these again. And so we have at least 2 liberties, which means that on our next turn, we have some square we can color in to continue the streak. and now we have one liberty left. Okay, well now actually we created 3 liberties in this case. And now red colors in 2 of them, and we have this 1 liberty left, which we can color in. So we're counting these liberties basically, and by just counting the number of liberties, we see that we will be able to always place our 4th square in, 4th blue square to finish the streak. Yeah, and there's actually another case for the 3. For the case of 3 squares, we could also just have a straight line of 3 cells. Like this could be our streak after 3. And then after red makes his turn, after we've placed these 3 blue squares, there's gonna be, so we have 6, red's gonna cover up 6 of these 8 liberties, which is gonna leave us with 2 open liberties, meaning that we definitely have a viable move after this. So in other words, if you count the liberties up, it's always going to be the case that you can place 4 blue squares in this streak. So the answer is at least 4. We're done with that part now, so we can put a green tick mark next to that. There. But we should still be kind of sad because we have to prove now that no matter what we do, we can't get a streak of more than 4 squares as long as our opponent, red, is playing optimally. So now let's do that. So during the test, I was taking this test, and I think what I tried and a lot of other contestants tried is just to do something kind of similar to what we did to prove that we can always get 4, which is just to kind of in a nasty way consider like all the responses red can make. We're trying to come up with a strategy that red can employ that makes sure that we can never get more than 4. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for a strategy. And so one idea might be for every blue square we place, maybe what if red just simply colors the square to the west of it and the square to the north of the square we just colored in. And that's fine, right? It seems like should be fine, except what if on our next move we color like this square in? Well, now red can't color in this square because it's already occupied by our blue square. So maybe red has to switch up his strategy a little bit. Maybe color these 2 squares. Just color any 2 squares in like a cardinal direction from the last square we colored in. And this is not going to work actually. Like let's say we do this next. Okay, and let's say maybe red colors in the north square and the east square. We don't know exactly what red strategy should be, but it seems like we should always be coloring our red squares close to where the blue square was to try to stop the streak. And now let's say we color in this square next. And I mean, since we're humans and we know intuition, we know that we should color this square up for sure to stop blue from getting a streak of 5 on the next turn. But it's kind of hard to rigorously specify how red should do this with an algorithm that we can write down for our answer to how red can stop blue from getting a streak of more than 4. So it turns out if you really try to argue this enough, you can come up with a pretty convoluted strategy that allows red to stop blue from getting a streak of more than 4 by like doing some nasty casework on the placement of the which cells around our most recently colored blue cell. Like maybe like these squares are all occupied, and so you can do some nasty casework to deduce that maybe like red should color in these squares. So there's some nasty casework algorithm. But it turns out there's also an incredibly elegant algorithm that is very simple to describe that red can use to make sure that blue does not get a streak of more than 4. Okay, that was a mouthful. There's a strategy for red, and it's very simple to describe, okay? It's also very hard to come up with, which is why this problem is pretty hard in my opinion. And what we're going to do is this. We're going to split the infinite grid up into 2 by 2 squares like this. So yeah, just keep in mind, even though our picture here is a 6 by 6 grid, in the actual problem, it's an infinite grid. So you should think of it like that. So we do this now. And why is this useful? Well, let's see now. Let's play our game. And let's see what, I'm just going to do red strategy. And we're going to see exactly how this goes. So let's say blue plays his first move right here. What's red strategy going to be? Well, blue colored his first square in this 2 by 2 square. So red is going to color the 2 squares adjacent to that blue square that also lie in that 2x2 grid. Okay. So now maybe blue plays here on his next move. And now red, guess what? Red's going to play these 2 squares. Do you see the pattern? This is red strategy. It's pretty simple actually. It's not incredibly complicated. It's way better than any casework solution. So this is how the game might play out. No matter what moves blue makes, red is going to always do the same thing. And now let's say, what if blue plays here next? Well, then red forfeits his turn. That's the answer. Red plays like 2 squares really far away because this is an infinite grid, right? Basically, if blue does that, red is so confident that he can stop blue from getting 4 squares that red just forfeits his turn if blue completes the any square. So that's the strategy. And now we're going to see exactly why this works. So if you notice, any 2x2 square in our grid, we're never going to have 2 adjacent red cells. We're never going to have 2 red cells like this. Oh, no, sorry, 2 blue cells. I forgot. I got the colors mixed up. We're never going to have any 2 adjacent blue cells like this. Because whichever one was played first, red is just going to, on the very next move, stop any more of these, stop blue from getting any 2 adjacent cells. And if you think about it enough, you'll see that, yeah, it works, okay? There's no configuration that blue can have more than a streak of 4 squares in. And that's it. That's the solution. I don't know. I don't think I explained that well, but hopefully just by seeing that example of how red stops blue from getting 4, it might make a little bit of sense. It's really, I think it's a lot harder than it looks, just like me, even though I already look very hard. Bye.